Want to know the real secret to fluency? Stop translating and start thinking. The moment you start thinking in English, everything changes. Why your brain is sabotaging your English fluency and how to fix it. This mental shift will transform your English overnight. The difference between good English speakers and great ones? It's all in the mind. Picture this scenario. You're in the middle of an English conversation, and someone asks you a simple question like, "What did you do last weekend?" In your mind, you immediately start constructing the answer in your native language, then frantically try to translate it into English while the other person waits. By the time you finally respond, the conversation has lost its natural flow, and you feel frustrated because you know you could have expressed yourself so much better. Sound familiar? If you've experienced this mental translation marathon, you're not alone. Millions of English learners around the world struggle with the same challenge, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to break free from this exhausting cycle and start thinking directly in English. The ability to think in English isn't just a nice bonus skill. It's the fundamental difference between intermediate English speakers and truly fluent ones. When you think in English, your speech becomes faster, more natural, and more confident. You stop struggling to find words because the words are already there in your mind, ready to flow out effortlessly. But here's what most English teachers won't tell you. Thinking in English isn't something that just happens automatically after you reach a certain level. It's a skill that you need to deliberately develop and practice. The good news? Once you understand how your brain processes language, you can train it to think in English much faster than you might imagine. Let me start by explaining what actually happens in your brain when you're translating versus thinking in English. When you translate, your brain follows a complex pathway. First, you formulate thoughts in your native language. Then you search for equivalent English words and grammar structures. Then you try to arrange them in the correct English order. And finally, you speak. This process involves multiple steps and creates delays, hesitations, and often unnatural-sounding English. When you think in English, however, your thoughts are formed directly in English from the very beginning. There's no translation step, no searching for equivalents, and no mental gymnastics. The thought and the English expression emerge simultaneously, creating fluent, natural speech that flows effortlessly. Think about how you speak in your native language. Do you first think about what you want to say in some abstract form, then translate it into your native language? Of course not. The thought and the language are inseparable. This is exactly what we want to achieve with English. Now, you might be wondering, but how is this even possible? How can I think in a language that isn't my mother tongue? The answer lies in understanding how your brain creates language associations. Your brain doesn't store languages in separate, isolated compartments. Instead, it creates networks of associations between concepts, words, emotions, and experiences. When you learned your first language as a child, you didn't learn it by translating from another language. You learned it by directly associating words and concepts with real experiences, emotions, and situations. A child learning the word hot doesn't think hot means caliente in Spanish, which means this sensation I'm feeling. Instead, they directly associate the English word hot with the physical sensation and experience. This is the key to thinking in English. You need to create direct associations between English words and concepts, bypassing your native language entirely. Instead of learning that happiness means felicidad, which means that feeling of joy, you need to directly connect the English word happiness with the actual emotion and experience of being happy. So how do you practically develop this ability? The first and most crucial step is to stop the translation habit immediately. I know this sounds scary because translation feels like a safety net, but it's actually a crutch that's preventing you from developing true fluency. Every time you translate, you're reinforcing the old neural pathways instead of building new English thinking pathways. Start with simple internal monologue exercises. Right now, as you're watching this video, try narrating what you're doing in English. I'm watching a YouTube video about thinking in English. The speaker is explaining how the brain processes language. I'm sitting in my room and I can hear traffic outside. Keep it simple at first, using present tense and basic vocabulary. The key is to make this internal English monologue a constant habit throughout your day. When you wake up in the morning, instead of thinking about your day in your native language, try thinking, I need to get up. It's time for breakfast. What should I wear today? When you're walking down the street, narrate what you see. There's a red car. That building is very tall. The weather is nice today. At first, this will feel awkward and slow. You might find yourself unconsciously switching back to your native language. This is completely normal and expected. Don't get frustrated. Simply notice when it happens and gently redirect your thoughts back to English. Remember, you're literally rewiring your brain, and this takes time and patience. The second powerful technique is visualization with English, narration. Instead of just thinking about abstract concepts, create vivid mental images and describe them in English. If you're thinking about your weekend plans, don't just think, I want to go to the movies. Instead, visualize yourself walking into the movie theater, buying popcorn, sitting in the dark theater, watching the screen, and describe all of these images in English as you see them in your mind. This technique is incredibly powerful because it engages multiple areas of your brain simultaneously. You're not just processing language, you're also engaging your visual imagination, your emotional responses, and your sensory memories. This creates much stronger neural pathways and makes the English thinking process more natural and automatic. Another crucial strategy is to change your relationship with English media consumption. Most English learners watch movies or read books in English while still thinking about the content in their native language. Instead, try to engage with English media while maintaining an English mindset throughout. When you're watching an English movie, don't just follow the plot. Try to think your reactions in English. Instead of thinking, this is funny in your native language, think, this is hilarious, or that made me laugh. When a character does something surprising, think, I didn't expect that, or what's going to happen next in English. The same applies to reading. As you read English text, try to think your responses and reactions in English rather than automatically processing them in your native language. This transforms passive consumption into active English thinking practice. One of the most effective techniques I've discovered is what I call English emotion mapping. Start associating your emotions and feelings directly with English words instead of translating them from your native language. When you feel frustrated, don't think the word for frustrated in your native language and then translate it. Directly think, I'm frustrated, or this is annoying. When you're happy about something, immediately think, I'm so excited, or This makes me happy without any translation step. When you're tired, think, I'm exhausted, or I need some rest. The goal is to create direct emotional connections with English expressions. This emotional mapping is particularly powerful because emotions are processed in very deep, primitive areas of the brain. When you connect English directly to your emotional responses, you're creating some of the strongest possible neural associations. Dream journaling in English is another incredibly powerful technique that many people overlook. Dreams represent your subconscious mind's way of processing experiences and emotions. If you can train yourself to remember and describe your dreams in English, you're literally programming your subconscious to operate in English. Keep a notebook by your bed, and as soon as you wake up, try to write down what you remember about your dreams in English. Don't worry about perfect grammar or sophisticated vocabulary. Just capture the images, emotions, and experiences in simple English. I was in a big house. There were many people I didn't know. I felt confused. Someone was chasing me, but I wasn't scared. This technique works because dreams bypass your conscious, analytical mind, the part of your mind that wants to translate everything. By describing dreams in English, you're training your deeper, more intuitive language processing systems. Let's talk about dealing with complex thoughts and abstract concepts. Many English learners feel comfortable thinking simple thoughts in English but struggle when they want to express complex ideas, philosophical concepts, or emotional nuances. When this happens, they immediately revert to translation mode. The solution is not to avoid complex thoughts, but to build up your English thinking capacity gradually. Start by learning to express complex ideas in simple English rather than trying to translate sophisticated expressions from your native language. For example, instead of trying to translate a complex philosophical concept word for word, break it down into simple English components. If you want to think about the concept of nostalgia, instead of searching for the exact equivalent, you might think I miss the past, or old memories make me feel sad and happy at the same time. These simple expressions capture the essence of the concept while keeping your thinking in English. One common challenge is handling cultural concepts that don't have direct English equivalents. Every language has words and concepts that are culturally specific and difficult to translate. Instead of getting stuck trying to find perfect translations, learn to explain these concepts in simple English. If you want to think about a cultural concept from your country, describe it in English terms that an English speaker would understand. This not only keeps your thinking in English, but also helps you develop the valuable skill of cultural translation and explanation. The role of mistakes in developing English thinking is crucial to understand. Many learners are afraid to think in English because they're worried about making mental mistakes. This fear actually hinders the development of natural English thinking patterns. Remember, when you think in your native language, you don't monitor every thought for grammatical correctness. Your native language thinking is spontaneous, natural, and sometimes grammatically imperfect. English thinking should work the same way. Allow yourself to make mistakes in your internal English monologue. The goal is fluency and naturalness, not perfection. Your internal English dialogue should feel spontaneous and effortless, even if it's not always grammatically perfect. Speed is another important factor in developing English thinking. Many learners think too slowly in English because they're trying to construct perfect sentences. Instead, focus on speed and spontaneity, even if it means using simpler language. It's better to think quickly in simple English than to think slowly in complex translated English. I want food is better than spending 30 seconds trying to formulate, I am experiencing a desire to consume sustenance. Speed and spontaneity are more important than sophistication when you're developing English thinking skills. Let me share some specific daily exercises that can accelerate your English thinking development. The commentary technique involves providing live commentary on your activities throughout the day. As you brush your teeth, think, I'm brushing my teeth. The toothpaste tastes minty. I need to brush for 2 minutes. As you cook dinner, think, I'm cutting onions. My eyes are watering. I need to add some salt. The internal debate technique involves having discussions with yourself in English about decisions you need to make. Should I go to the gym today? I'm feeling tired, but I know exercise will make me feel better. Maybe I'll just do a short workout. Yes, that's a good compromise. The future planning technique involves thinking about your plans and goals in English. Instead of planning your weekend in your native language, think, tomorrow I want to go shopping. I need to buy groceries and maybe look for a new shirt. After that, I might call my friend and see if she wants to have coffee. Environmental factors can significantly impact your English thinking development. Try to create an English-rich environment where English thinking feels natural and necessary. Change your phone's language to English so when you're checking messages or using apps, your brain automatically switches to English mode. Listen to English music, podcasts, or have English videos playing in the background during daily activities. This creates a constant English atmosphere that makes English thinking feel more natural and automatic. The social aspect of English thinking is also important. If possible, try to spend time with English speakers or other English learners who are committed to speaking only English. When you're in an environment where English is the primary language, your brain naturally shifts into English thinking mode to keep up with the conversation. If you don't have access to English-speaking environments, create virtual ones. Join English-speaking online communities, participate in English video calls, or find language exchange partners who can help you practice thinking and speaking in English. One of the biggest breakthroughs in English thinking comes from understanding that you don't need to know every word to think in English. Native speakers constantly use approximations, general terms, and simple language when they're thinking. You don't need a perfect vocabulary to think effectively in English. If you don't know the specific English word for something, describe it using the words you do know. Instead of getting stuck because you don't know the word screwdriver, think the tool for turning screws, or that metal thing for fixing things. This keeps your thinking in English while gradually expanding your vocabulary through context and usage. Let's address some common obstacles that prevent English thinking development. Perfectionism is probably the biggest obstacle. Many learners believe they need to reach an advanced level before they can start thinking in English. This is backwards. Thinking in English is what helps you reach an advanced level, not the result of already being advanced. Start thinking in English at whatever level you currently are. If you're a beginner, think in simple present tense. I am hungry. I want pizza. The weather is nice. If you're intermediate, add more complexity gradually. The key is to start where you are and build from there. Another obstacle is the comfort zone of your native language. Your native language feels safe, familiar, and effortless. English thinking initially feels uncomfortable, slow, and awkward. This discomfort is normal and temporary, but many learners give up during this awkward phase. Push through the discomfort by remembering that this awkwardness is actually a sign that your brain is changing and developing new neural pathways. Every moment of awkward English thinking is literally rewiring your brain for better fluency. Time pressure is another challenge. Many learners feel they don't have time to think in English because it initially slows down their thinking process. However, this slowness is temporary. As your English thinking skills develop, you'll actually think faster in English than you can when translating from your native language. Consider the time investment in English thinking as exactly that, an investment. You're spending a little extra time now to save enormous amounts of time later. Every minute you spend developing English thinking skills will save you hours of translation time in future conversations. The confidence factor cannot be underestimated. Many learners lack confidence in their English thinking abilities, so they default back to translation because it feels more reliable. However, confidence in English thinking comes from practice, not from waiting until you feel ready. Start with low-stakes situations where mistakes don't matter. Practice English thinking when you're alone, when you're doing routine activities, or when you're in comfortable, non-judgmental environments. As your confidence builds in these safe spaces, you'll naturally start thinking in English in more challenging situations. Let me share some advanced techniques for learners who have mastered basic English thinking. Emotional vocabulary expansion involves learning to express subtle emotional states directly in English. Instead of just thinking, I'm sad, learn to distinguish between I'm disappointed, I'm melancholy, I'm heartbroken, or I'm frustrated. Situational thinking scripts involve preparing common thinking patterns for typical situations. Develop mental scripts for thinking about work situations, social interactions, problem-solving scenarios, and decision-making processes. Having these scripts ready makes English thinking more automatic in real-life situations. Stream of consciousness writing is a powerful exercise where you write continuously in English for 10-15 minutes without stopping, editing, or translating. Just let your thoughts flow directly onto paper in English, no matter how messy or imperfect they are. This trains your brain to bypass the translation step and express thoughts directly in English. The role of patience in this process cannot be overstated. Developing English thinking skills is not a quick fix. It's a gradual transformation that happens over weeks and months of consistent practice. Some days will feel like major breakthroughs, while other days you might feel like you're making no progress at all. This inconsistency is completely normal. Language learning, especially at the level of changing thinking patterns, involves complex neural changes that don't happen in a linear fashion. Trust the process, stay consistent with your practice, and celebrate small improvements along the way. Cultural thinking patterns also play a role in English thinking development. Different cultures organize thoughts, express ideas, and approach communication in different ways. Part of thinking in English involves not just using English words, but also adopting English communication patterns and thought organization. English tends to be more direct, explicit, and linear than many other languages. English speakers often state their main point first, then provide supporting details. They tend to be explicit about relationships between ideas, using words like however, therefore, in addition, and on the other hand. As you develop English thinking skills, pay attention to these cultural communication patterns. Try to organize your thoughts in ways that feel natural to English speakers, not just translate your native language thought patterns into English words. Let me give you a practical weekly plan for developing English thinking skills. Monday through Wednesday, focus on basic internal monologue throughout your daily activities. Thursday and Friday, add emotional mapping and reaction thinking while consuming English media. Weekend days can be dedicated to more advanced exercises like future planning, internal debates, and stream of consciousness practice. Remember, consistency is more important than intensity. 15 minutes of English thinking practice every day is much more effective than 3 hours of practice once a week. Make English thinking a daily habit, like brushing your teeth or checking your phone. The ultimate goal is for English thinking to become so natural that you don't even notice when you're doing it. You'll know you've succeeded when you catch yourself thinking in English without having consciously decided to do so. You might wake up one morning and realize you were dreaming in English, or find yourself solving problems in English without any effort. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but when it does happen, it's absolutely life-changing. Your English fluency will improve dramatically, your confidence will soar, and you'll finally feel like English is truly your language, not just a foreign language you've learned. What's your biggest challenge with thinking in English? Do you find yourself constantly translating, or do you struggle with complex thoughts? Share your experiences in the comments below, and let me know what specific aspects of English thinking you'd like me to address in future videos. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell because we're going to dive even deeper into advanced fluency techniques that will completely transform your English skills. Thanks for watching, and remember, the journey to thinking in English starts with a single English thought. Make that thought today and keep building from there. I'll see you in the next video.